We deliver service.
We deliver trust.
We deliver passion.
We deliver leadership.
We deliver innovation.
We deliver possibilities.
It's a great thing what Visa's doing with financial football.
To have a game definitely makes it so much more fun, especially to be able to interact during the game.
All right. Good afternoon, YPs. My name is Julietta Johnson, she, her, hers, and I work at CUNA Mutual Group. As a DEI champion, former crasher, and YP lucky enough to be part of this incredible movement, I couldn't be more excited or honored to moderate this panel. Thank you, Renee, and the AACUC for the opportunity to be here today. I would like to extend the warmest of welcomes to our super panel of credit union equity leaders and everyone in our audience here today. Whether you've got your camera off, your camera on, or you join us in the chat, we are grateful to have you here. And we are thrilled to bring this panel of extraordinary leaders together to discuss their organizations and how they work together to serve underserved communities, promoting greater financial equity. Now, we know how these sessions go. We start on time, we end on time. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our esteemed panel. Our panel here today is the President and CEO of the African American Credit Union Coalition, Renee Sadie-White. Director of Community Development at Filene Research Institute, Courtney Angeli. Associate Professor at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, representing Visa, Dr. Siku Burmis. President and CEO of Inclusive, Kathy Mann. And last but very not least, Senior Manager of Multicultural Business Strategy at the CUNA Mutual Group, Opal Tomaszewska. Now, we've got an esteemed panel here, and I can't wait to get us started. We've got a few questions for each of the panelists, and then some questions that they'll all answer. So we may as well jump right in and get started. Now, Renee, let's start with you. Can you talk a little bit about AACUC's history and partnership with each of the organizations on the panel?
No, I don't want to do that. Sure, of course. Of course. Gosh, I don't even know where to start. Let's start with CUNA Mutual Group, right? So CUNA Mutual Group has been a partner of ACC's for, oh wow, at least 2 decades now. I started with ACC when I was a young professional. I think I was 38 or 39 years old. I'll be 60 in a couple months. Yeah, black don't crack. And so CUNA Mutual Group has just been very good, instrumental with working with us since the beginning. CUNA and CUNA Mutual Group, when we first started, were one organization. And when they were one organization, we received our very first grant, which hired me. I was the internship program manager for the Reaching Toward the Future internship program. We didn't have a program, and we wanted to have students from historically Black colleges and other universities around the country participate in mainstream credit unions, giving them an opportunity to see what it would be like to work in the financial industry, and certainly among credit unions. And so we did that. That was our flagship a flagship program for quite some time, did really well. We've matriculated over 400 students that have worked in credit unions. So we're really proud about that program. We've worked with Inclusive. They used to be called the National Federation of Community Development Credit Unions. And oh my God, they've been a partner for years. We have built programs together. We have cried together at the state of credit unions and some of the things that have happened, but just always with a great working relationship, knowing that the 2 organizations work very closely together for MDIs, small credit unions, and anything that's going to further credit unions that are led by minorities. And so we really work well together with that. And of course, Kathy Mann, she was introduced to me about 6 years ago. The late Hubert Hoosman said, you and Kathy need to get in good trouble together. And Kathy and I have gotten into good trouble together, trust me. Let's see, who else do we have on the panel? Filene, my goodness, where is my Courtney? My Courtney. Cooperative Trust and Filene, they have really stepped up, and I'm just so pleased that the things that we've been trying to do together. So just a lot of great partnership there, lots of of people at Filene that I really care about. And of course, Courtney is a new addition, but a welcome addition to the family. So thank you for that. And I see that my friend Doc has moved. You've gone to another state here. Good for you. I know a lot of folks in North Carolina. You're gonna love it. And we've got our vice president of programs who's stationed there as well. So we know that you're gonna have a good time there. So just having a very collaborative spirit about who we work with. And so again, we're just really great for the partnership. So thank you, all of you, for being on this panel today.
Thank you so much, Renee. I love getting to know people through stories. Kathy, how about you? Could you share a little bit about Inclusive and how you collaborate with each of these organizations?
Absolutely. Thank you, Julietta, and thanks for having me on the panel this afternoon. Inclusive is a network, a national network of community development credit unions. We have over 300 members in 46 states, DC and Puerto Rico. Nothing that we do in our organization, everything from delivery of technical assistance and training to investing in capital into credit unions, raising awareness of credit unions, advocacy, programmatic support, nothing that we do could be done without the partners on this panel. Renee is very right that we, from the very start, we knew we saw kindred spirits in each other and just have not, from the moment we met, I don't think we've stopped thinking about all the different things we can do together and have put together some truly amazing programs. It's really in collaboration with Renee and Michelle that we have been building out a tremendous area of work, really supporting minority credit unions. We have an incredible legacy of minority credit unions in the credit union movement, credit unions that are formed by, of, and from low income and underserved communities. And we have a tremendous amount of those credit unions that have been organized in communities of color and have really been sort of the financial institutions in so many communities that have been historically redlined. And together with AACUC, we have been really focused on how we're going to work together to make sure we reach out collectively to every remaining minority credit union to help them find what they need and get the resources they need to continue to do the amazing work they're doing in communities. CUNA Mutual, you know, the Inclusive, formerly the Federation, really was, has long had relationships and partnerships with CUNA Mutual Group. CUNA Mutual Group is probably the most committed and consistent supporter of our work, you know, throughout the movement and throughout really all of our sources of support. I think every time we're trying to launch new programming and new kind of ideas, they're great thought leaders, they're great partners. Filene is also, you know, such a tremendous resource for the movement. They do amazing research, they do incredible innovation. We all benefit from it and from their work. And so I'm just grateful to be on this panel with so many great friends and collaborators. I'm really looking forward to Dr. Burmis as well, getting to know him now at UNC. And we've actually partnered quite a bit with the Center for Community Capital that's out of University of North Carolina. So looking forward to a lot of great work together in the future with you as well.
Very exciting stuff. Thank you so much, Kathy. Appreciative to have you here. Dr. Burmis, could you share some insights perhaps from your work leading the war on talent and the importance of financial wellness for young professionals?
Sure, yes. Thanks for having me. I am quite honored to be on this esteemed panel. So, you know, I'm an academic. That's my primary focus, but that gets boring for me. I like to get out and see if the ideas that we come up with, if this research that we're coming up with actually can make a difference. And so this is why, one of the reasons why I was drawn to Filene and the Center for the War for Talent, which has been generously supported by Visa, has aimed to do that within the credit union space. And so particularly on wellness, I want to point to two things that have come out of the center and research that I've been doing as part of my role at Filene. The biggest one was this financial wellness report that Taylor authored, came out last year, and it started with a conversation I had with a PhD student at Oklahoma a couple of years ago. And the primary motivation behind it was this: credit unions are really focused on helping out their members, but what about the employees? And so this prompted us to think about, okay, well, what are credit unions doing to actually help employees and their financial wellness, right? You had examples of employees that were coming to work and were putting on airs as if everything was okay, but really they were stressed out about making ends meet. And so the report, which I want to point folks to, because it's really telling, but a couple of things really come out at that. And the first is a lot of people are struggling. So a survey by NCU Foundation in 2017 showed about 55% of credit union employees are struggling financially in some way. And that's a lot, right? And so how do credit unions go about kind of resolving this? And so the big takeaway really is a lot of focus has been done on education, teaching people about good financial practices, but we have to go way beyond that, right? And so really getting folks to earn more, right? And the best way to do that is to pay people more, right? So this is the drum that needs to be beaten, which is you got to pay people a living wage. People have to accept and really deserve to be paid more. That resolves a lot of the issues, but other things such as teaching them how to save and really actually implementing systems that get people to save, and then helping them reduce debt and borrow in a wise way. And so that report and some other studies we've done looking at young people within this industry and across the country show people are really focused on not only trying to maximize their income, but they're very wary of how their debts might match up to that. And so to the extent that credit unions can address this, leads to a better workforce and those values being shown both inside and outside the organization.
Love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Vermis. Now, Courtney, as a former crasher myself, I'm just very, very passionate about the crashing experience. I did crash what's now the CUNA Finance Council in May 2018, and it really changed my life and inspired me not to be siloed. Could you tell me a little bit about, or should I say more our audience, a little bit about the cooperative trust and how, if they were interested, they could apply to crash?
Absolutely. And first, before I do that, I just want to say it is quite the honor to be on a panel with such amazing leaders. And truly, we could not do the work that we do at Filene or the Cooperative Trust without every single one of these partners. We work together, I would even say in the last year, on something together. Seku's one of our fellows, and the research that he puts out for the War for Talent has always inspired me, and as leading young professionals is something that I'm always drawn to. Kathy at Inclusive, I know that we've worked together on a lot of incubator work for ESDL, so employer sponsored small dollar loans, which is so important for credit union health. And then CUNA Mutual Group, oh my gosh, like we couldn't do anything without CUNA Mutual Group, to be honest. They fund so many of our centers of excellence. They support the Cooperative Trust. Renee, I mean, thank you for welcoming me to your family with such open arms. This is why AACUC is such a gift for so many people. That I'm so excited to bring the Cooperative Trust into this family as well. And last but certainly not least, Visa, I have to say hi and thank you, because again, the power of partnership is so extremely amazing, and it's so important to doing what we do. And so with that, I'll just get into it. And Julietta, you're absolutely correct. Crashing absolutely changed my life as well. Crashed the GAC in 2016. And really quickly, I'll just share, I had been at a credit union in a contact center for almost 7 years. Prior to that, I was at a savings and loan in a contact center. So a lot of work in contact centers, which really gave me a very, very narrow focus of what the credit union was. I always thought that what I did was I was a service provider, but I didn't really see the greater impact of my work. And that was until I crashed the governmental affairs conference. After the week was up, I called my husband for the first time because, as many of the crashers know, it's insanely busy and you don't always have time to have small talk with the people that you love during that week. And I burst into tears, like full on ugly face, crying, hyperventilating. My husband was like, dude, you need to calm down right now and just breathe. And the reason why I share that is because that's the first moment in my professional career that I had ever felt such an emotion towards an industry. I had felt joy in my life, in personal things, but never towards the work that I was doing, never towards the mission of what I believed in. And that's really what the Cooperative Trust did for me. And that brought me from Southern California to Madison, Wisconsin. I literally uprooted my family to move because of the mission was so powerful. So if you're interested in crashing, definitely reach out to me. We'll set up a phone call. I won't let you just get away with an email, but also check out Filene's website. We have all types of crashes. We actually have one coming up, actually two coming up in September. One is Crash Our Center for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which is a brand new center that Filene has started. And the second one is actually Crash Visa Payments Forum. So an opportunity that Visa is providing for young professionals to learn more about the payments industry, which is super exciting.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Courtney. It's great to hear those stories. And I feel very similarly about my personal and professional passions kind of intersecting after crashing, and my whole world sort of blew up. So thank you so much. Now, Opal, when I think of diversity, equity, and inclusion at CUNA Mutual Group, your face is one of the first ones that I see. I feel lucky to have grown alongside not only you, but the company as we navigate our DEI journey. Can you talk a little bit about CUNA Mutual's DEI strategy and how our partnership with the AACUC has enhanced our work?
Yeah, absolutely. And I echo everyone's sentiments on thank you for having me. And we definitely could not do the work we do without all of these panelists. And it is a complete honor to be amongst superstars. These are superstars for real. Like, I look up to every panelist here. So our DEI strategy, or really our DEI journey, is one that's built on transformative change. So really looking at the individual and the organization. So our VP of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Angela Russell, when she took on the role of DEI manager, which is first of its kind at CUNA Mutual about 5 years ago, she said that she wanted to be sure that we weren't just checking a box. We weren't just doing this to say we were doing it and then get it done and not really have change. So Angela's background is in public health and also in state government. So she was going to be serious about change. So we've really done that. We've embodied that by the speakers that we brought in, by our employee resource groups that we have, and really encouraging and continuing this change. And really, as the different things of 2020 hit, it's put us in such a better place than we ever would have been before without it. And I'll give just one example of kind of how, we're not just checking this box. So definitely we want to hire more diverse folks, and that does mean recruiting, that does mean retention, but also looking at changes in that process. So we are going to HBCUs and we are having career fairs there and recruiting, but we're not just sending anyone. If I can shout out one of our YPs, Alicia Cheney, who is now manager of talent at CUNA Mutual Group. She has been, yes, please clap for Alicia. She is amazing. You probably saw her on the Commitment to Change 40 Under 40 talk, where she did an amazing job as well. And she is an HBCU graduate. And she's able to go there and be there and share the experience of someone who's moved to Madison and worked for us. And going beyond that, now we have other HBCU grads who are within CUNA Mutual too. So now when we go to different career fairs at HBCU and other schools, we can actually send talent, generally talent of color, who has a tie directly to that school, which makes a big difference than just sending anyone. So that's just an example of how processes need to change, and it's not just checking a box. And we also do things like our national case competition, where we go to HBCUs and other colleges in Wisconsin, and we look for students to compete and kind of solve economic problems with multicultural and multi-generational motives in mind, and how can we reach different consumers. And that brings me to our relationship with AACUC, because at one of those competitions was the first time I met Miss Renee Sadie White. She was brought in as a judge, and as you all know, when Renee is in a room, Renee is in a room. So I wasn't even introduced yet, and someone like that's her. I was like, all right, and I watched her, and I was so just amazed and impressed by her questions and her knowledge and her experience within the credit union movement. And I was honored to be, introduced to her. And then Miss Renee decides to give, some of her time that afternoon with myself and another leader from the African American ERG that we have. And when I tell you that I knew during that meeting that it was going to be something special, I absolutely did. So Renee has poured into me personally and others with us, and then also just having the AACUC. So there's that personal side, but then there's that business. So when we started our multicultural business strategy, we were able to bring some of our first research to her board, which had CEOs and C-suite of all these credit unions across the nation. And we're able to show them what we have, get their feedback and input. So business and personal, AACUC has been instrumental to the work that we're doing, DEI and MCOE.
Thank you, Opal. Couldn't agree more on how many of those things that you mentioned have really enhanced the employee value proposition at Keenan Mutual Group. So very, very grateful. All right, thank you all for those individual questions. Now I'll just start with a couple of questions for all panelists. So I'll ask my first question. We can then again start with Renee. We'll kind of go around the same way. So NCUA Chairman Rodney Hood has called financial inclusion the civil rights issue of our generation. Could you please share your perspective on this and perhaps a few ideas you have to promote greater financial inclusion?
Are you serious? Like, really? Credit Unions United. Credit Unions United against racism. Yes, he's absolutely right. Absolutely right. But I do have to do a shout out to Maricela. Hello, my love. It's so good to see you. So I love her. I'm sorry.
Hey, Zella.
She was one of the students who did a great job on the focus group, and they won, and she's been back twice to our conferences, so I'm excited about that. So sorry, I get all excited when I see my peoples, those that are mine. Anyway, so yes, absolutely. Chairman Hood is absolutely on point. There are so many different things that all of us can do. We're doing it now. This virtual conference, we decided that we still needed to be intact about commitment to change. What does that look like? And yes, we do believe, ACC absolutely believes that credit unions are uniquely poised to change America's hearts and minds about how they feel about racism, about getting rid of it altogether. Look at all the people who are on the panel now. We are more than just credit union people. We are people who want to make a difference. And when the things that work together are our collaborations, all of us on this panel, all of the panelists and the organizations that we represent, that's working together collectively, cohesively. And so when I look at all of the faces that are here, I think about, what can we do? We're all doing it. We're learning to educate ourselves. We're getting more resources. We're talking to one another. We're exposing ourselves. We're being vulnerable. So all of those things come into play when you're working together collaboratively. And so again, Chairman Hood is absolutely correct. This is the civil rights movement. This is this of our day. This will change it. But the most important thing that I want you guys to understand, and yes, Julia, I'm going off script, is that you young people are the ones who are going to make the difference. You are going to make the change. We're old. Kathy and I, we were 2 years ago, we tried to crash with the crashers, and we went out to the bar, and that's when I met Jackie for the first time, and we had a great time. But I tell you, we were not 20, and we said that getting into our cabs. We are not 20 anymore. So the energy that the young professionals have is just awesome. And like Ben and Stacy and Opal, those that were on the call to action, the town hall, that's the kind of stuff that's going to change this industry. So it's those types of things that are going to happen. Getting together with someone and collectively making a decision to do it now, not wait. You want to do it now. So whatever it is that you're gonna do, don't just gonna do it. Make a plan, make it plain, and get it done. And I'm gonna sit back because we have other panelists.
Renee, thank you so much for that. Kathy?
Well, Renee's certainly right. We got tired. We did stay out a long time. We had a great time, but we did get tired. And that is true. I mean, this, for everybody on the call and all the young people who are engaging and participating and getting to know this movement. I mean, it's really important to know our roots as a movement. We were created because there were gaps in the financial system. There were communities that were historically not being served, and credit unions came about because we were the institutions that were organized by, for, and of people. We're cooperatives. So we were formed by people in communities who knew that they needed better solutions and that those solutions were not there for them. And that's a history dating back from the 1930s when, the Credit Union Act first got established in this country, dating all the way through the civil rights movement. And most of the steam of our organizing, of our work, really gained traction and power during the civil rights movement. And it is the last and most important unfinished business of the civil rights movement is the focus on not just financial inclusion, but greater economic inclusion, making sure that we are cooperatively owning the structures and the capital and the sources of capital in our communities. And so it's a fabulous tradition. It's an empowered tradition. It is the right kind of vehicle and the right type of institution for the needs of our time. And I think what we are finding is that while the civil rights movement did a tremendous amount to advance, obviously, political structures, there's a lot of economic structures that need to be continuously challenged and forced to be more inclusive and to be getting capital out more equitably and to sort of fight the systemic racism that has existed in our financial services industry. I think credit unions are the best vehicle to do it. And I think young people taking up the torch and moving forward with it is the right way to go. And sorry for my dog in the background.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Really appreciate it. Dr. Burmese?
Yeah, I thought, yeah, Kathy, your dog was just supporting you, saying, yeah, power to the people. Yeah, so I don't want to repeat too much. I think it's spot on. I mean, we are in a capitalist society, and that means that, if we're going to be democratic, it means everyone needs access to same opportunities and to be free from discrimination. One of the things, I thought about two things kind of related to this, and forgive me if I get a little abstract, but I'm a professor. The first is, I have debates with people about this all the time, and I think there's two camps. There have always been two camps since Booker T. Washington and W.B. Du Bois: the self-determination, get our own, do it on our own, and the kind of talented 10th, we have to get in within the system and change the system from within. And I always felt like it was a false choice, because at the end, both sides are trying to fight discrimination. And at the end of the day, if you don't fight discrimination, if we don't have equal access to the same things, then we don't have a real democracy. Right. And so I think it's absolutely a civil right, as much as it's important that people have the freedom to be able to pursue, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and the like. Finances are tied into that. And if you look at the history, particularly of racism, it has been the economic inequities that have probably been the most damaging. Right. When you kind of relegate everything back, I mean, if it has prevented a lot of development, growth, it's destroyed families and the like. And so I'm personally really excited to work with organizations that are at the forefront of kind of, addressing this. And so in that way, I fully support this. And, I'm curious and welcome ways to do it with more precision, right? And so one of the things I look forward to from the panelists and from the session is to understand how exactly someone like me or someone sitting in their living room right now at some credit union in Nebraska or in Austin, Texas, or North Carolina can help with this process.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Burmese. Courtney?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely echo everything that everyone has said so far. And, also from things that I've just learned within the last few months of really immersing myself into education and just really trying to be a strong ally, not just for my coworkers and my friends, but also learning that these are resources that credit union team members also need. These are conversations that credit union young professionals struggle with having with their leadership teams, where I've been contacted by people in our network just saying, I don't even know how to begin this conversation, which is heartbreaking. And when people say that they're fearful of their job for speaking out, that to me tells me that there is a systemic issue, even if you believe in standing up for economic justice for everyone. So for me, it's, just being a resource for all young people and making sure that we have the tools that we need to really have those tough conversations. If you had the opportunity to sit in on the DE&I code switching session led by Andrea Finley, it was really eye-opening for a lot of people. And what we've learned is that we have to have these conversations. We have to have courage to speak to our leaders about things that are extremely uncomfortable. And I just hope that we can be a resource and that we have we collaborate with these organizations for a reason, and it's to be able to provide those resources for young professionals. So for us and from our perspective, it's not being fearful. I think I'm going to take a book from Ben Herring when he mentioned this in the town hall last week, is trying not to let the fear cause inaction, and really pushing through. So thanks, Ben, for that, because that really hit home for me. And that's definitely something that we all need to do together.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Opal?
Yeah, I would agree with what's been said. And I think when Kathy says that this is economics is kind of this last civil rights piece, absolutely. We don't always talk about MLK's economic justice. We talk about a lot of other things with him, but we don't talk about that enough. And that is something that he was very, very passionate about, especially during the end of his life. And I think, as Dr. Burmese said, you know, we have these systems, redlining, that were built with racial harm in mind. And we think about how much we build wealth and how much wealth in America is built on home ownership, and where we see these drastic differences between Hispanic and African Americans with home ownership. I think it's huge. So one of the ways that we can really promote this inclusion, financial inclusion, is to start thinking about different people when we're creating these systems, when we're creating new products and services. So having someone who is not a white male head of family be in mind when you're thinking about economic products, when you're thinking about financial services. Actually thinking about a woman of color, because as we look as the population is changing, that's who we are serving. Thinking about low-income folks as well, because they were not in mind when we were thinking of these ways to build wealth and systems 100 or 70 years ago. So really having other folks in mind is going to be the way to make things inclusive, in addition to everything others have said as well.
Thanks very much, Opal, and everyone, for that first round of questions. All right, so we'll start again here with Renee. What are some barriers that we have to overcome to increase financial equity in our society?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. A
little bit.
I think the one that I'm present to right now is white privilege, and so unfortunately, I've just had so many conversations with white people who don't get it. And what I mean by that is and it's the well-meaning ones that don't get it. And that scares me. That simple things. I think that in order the first breakdown or the first barrier to get over is to not treat Black people or people of color like they don't have good sense, like they are not educated, like they don't know something. And as we saw earlier, the young people today, they held their own with Hannibal, with the finance information. I don't even like to listen. I don't do numbers. Our Chairman Johnson always says he's a fact guy and he's a numbers guy. Well, I'm a word girl. And so I do words really, really well, as you can see. However, the barriers that I really think right now are most prominent are when white people feel like they know best. They know best. How can you know best when you've not lived my life? You don't know what it's like to wonder whether or not you're going to be able to meet your financial needs for your family. I think that once that is eradicated, that white people understand that they cannot judge and determine for Black people. Ask and stop making assumptions. And I think that's the biggest barrier, is even the well-meaning white people sometimes don't listen to their Black counterparts or their people of color who are trying to explain to them how things work and why it's better. I'll never forget when I was having a conversation with Opal and Eric about the insurance. And Eric said that CUNA Mutual Group thought that Black people didn't pay their bills on time because the insurance. But Black people are the minority group that's going to buy insurance quickest and first, in my opinion. I don't have the facts about that. Opal may have those facts, but what they found out was it's not that Black people didn't want to pay their bills; they paid their bills differently. And again, a classic case of white people making an assumption, because you can't automatically take that money out of my account. I pay a different way that makes me lesser than. So that's the barrier, not understanding the cultural differences and making assumptions based on your life instead of someone else's life.
Absolutely agree, Renee, and thank you so much for that insight. Kathy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, Renee hits it on the head. It's about leadership. And I think we have to look at our movement. I think we have to believe fully in this goal that we're working towards around equity, and that equity being complete, financial equity being a critical part of what we're working on. I think leadership is so important, and listening and being able to recognize when our knowledge is limited. In my case, as a white woman, I have a certain set of assumptions, a certain set of knowledge and experiences that I grew up with, that I managed in my life. And so I know certain things, and there's a huge amount of space in that I don't know, and I won't know it if I'm not finding and supporting and growing and working together in collaboration with diverse leadership. I think in the credit union movement right now, we have a little bit of a need to play a little defense and offense on this concept of diversity and leadership. We do have a lot of diversity in the credit union movement. It tends, both in terms of our gender diversity as well as our racial diversity, tends to be concentrated in smaller institutions under 100 million in assets. So we have to do a lot of work to make sure that our smaller institutions are growing, are being supported, are not being driven out of existence. So I feel like we have that defense game we got to be playing. I think there's a lot around financial equity that we need to be looking at in terms of thinking about how our products are structured as credit unions, thinking about the equity of those products. I think, Opal talked about home ownership. Home ownership is the pathway by which most Americans build wealth. We need to look at our home mortgage products being equitably delivered. Have we structured them in the right ways so that everybody in our membership is benefiting from it? How do we move beyond thinking that there's certain types of products for a certain portion of our membership and a certain part of types of products for others in our membership? So, I think that that reflective lens that's happening so powerfully right now in this movement and these conversations that AACUC is leading are so essential to keep going and keep us sort of constantly exploring and reflecting on what it is we need to be doing better to be driving towards this goal of greater financial equity.
Thank you, Kathy. Really appreciate your perspective. Dr. Burmese?
Yeah, so I'll just say two kind of points on this. I mean, what are the biggest barriers? I think they're structural, and a lot of that is cognitive, right? So people just have one way of believing how things should be, and to get people to change their minds is probably the hardest thing to do in the world, right? We are hardwired to believe that we are smart and correct. And if someone points out that we've been wrong for a long time, we will do all types of mental gymnastics to say like, no, I was really right before, right? And that's kind of human nature, right? So really you are fighting against people's kind of psychological need to feel as if they are a good person and they mean well. And so a lot of the fight against white privilege is, what does it mean if I've gotten something not by my own efforts? How do I process? That's difficult, right? And that's what you're fighting against when you start talking white privilege. And I've done it in rooms and gotten a lot of like pushback. One of the big things, so I mentioned the two things that I haven't even gotten to yet. So one of the first thing I say is patience. I think, I'm a man that reads history. And if you look at some of the dynasties, they have plans, 50-year plans, 100-year plans. Where we are, it didn't happen in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, hundreds of years. It's going to take hundreds of years to reverse it, right? And so because the progress is slow, doesn't mean that it's not working. It means it's going to take a long time, and that's fine. But we all have to say, I'm here for X amount of years. I'm going to fight the good fight, pass it on to someone else, and they're going to fight the good fight. And I find that a lot of folks, and I'm talking now particularly to the young folks, right? So these are my students that don't get the change on their timetable. And they're like, this is BS, I'm out of here. And I'm like, it takes patience, it takes time. And so you're right, it should go faster, but it won't. And then the other is one that I'll kind of put out here, and we can circle back to it, but this has been in my mind lately, is this idea of civil rights versus civil liberties. I find that whenever there are folks, and I live in Texas, there's a lot of folks that do not like civil rights talk. They love civil liberties talk. And the biggest difference between the two is civil rights are things that require intervention by the government. The government has to provide protection of civil rights. The government has to be active in the society. Civil liberties are about constraining government so that government is less involved so that people can do whatever they want to do. So quite often when I get into these back and forths, I find that there's someone that's like, I don't like talking about civil rights. I like talking about civil liberties. And the main thing is they just don't believe government should be involved. Well, if government's not involved, who's going to be involved? Who's going to do it? And that's where places like credit unions and these other organizations have to fill that void. That's a way to reach across the bridge and say, like, all right, we don't have to talk about government intervention, but we can talk about people collectively getting together, private money coming together to make a change. And you'll find those civil liberty people are very comfortable with that. They will support that. And that's a way I think we can potentially move this ball along a little faster.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Burmese. Thanks for helping us think about that differently. Courtney?
Yes, so I am reminded of Erin Parrish's story that she was sharing yesterday about helping the justice served with getting driver's licenses, and how the initial test of them saying, okay, if you show up to the courthouse and you meet this criteria, this information will be expunged and you'll be given your driver's license, which is an amazing opportunity. And I think she said only 20 people showed up to the courthouse out of hundreds of people. And it makes me think, why is that? Well, they don't trust the system. So for me, how do we build trust in these communities that we've really just taken it away from them? What have we done to show that we are really here to be supportive and to be helpful? How are we listening to, are these products and services actually going to matter to these communities? And I think that's really huge, is we have to ensure our members trust us. And if we don't have trust, our members will just pick up and go anywhere else that they want to go. So I agree with everything everyone said. And for me, the bottom is that we have to make sure that people trust what we're doing and that we are going to do what we say what we're going to do.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Totally agree. Trust is huge and definitely a key foundation. So thank you. Opal?
Yeah, I absolutely think that the biggest barrier is just that systems issue that so many of us have talked about, and really starting to think and change, who are we really trying to serve? And if so, why do so many of our leaderships within credit union and otherwise not mirror the communities that they're in? And going even beyond the staffs at credit unions, looking at the boards, which we know are typically even less diverse, typically very much older, usually very male, usually very wealthy at that point, because you're getting folks who are older and further along in their career or even retired. So really thinking about tapping into the talent that we've got. I mean, when Dr. Burmese says that 55% of credit union employees are struggling with finances, why aren't we tapping into them to figure out solutions, because they are living that life? So really starting again, trusting talent and listening to the correct voices is going to be the only thing I think that can really take down that barrier and help us to get things to be more even for everyone, and really serve the folks who are looking to us for them. And also just in that point, COVID-19 and everything else that's resulted since March has really shown us that consumers and our members are really looking for credit unions and institutions and brands to step up and be there for them, because other systems and governments have failed them. So we've got to step into that. They're waiting for us, they're rooting for us to do it, and they're ready, willing, and able to help and be benefited by it too.
Thank you, Opal. Can always count on you for a powerful perspective. All right, on to the next question. And we've shared a little bit about this in your organizations, but I'm curious why each of you are passionate about the purpose of your organization. Beginning with Renee.
Ooh, that one's easy. Thank God for an easy one. I'm the possibility of people serving other people passionately. I'll say that again. I'm the possibility of people serving other people passionately. It lights me up. You can tell whenever I'm speaking to a group. I absolutely adore what ACUC is able to do, what ACUC has done for me. I was a young professional, and the Legacy Board of Directors gave me the keys to the kingdom and said, girl, do your thing. And so my marketing company did a lot of stuff for ACUC at the beginning, and I'm still here because I drank the Kool-Aid. And ACUC has been really, really good to me. To whom much is given, much is required, and it's always best to pay it forward.
Thank you, Renee. It truly shows. Kathy?
Yeah, I mean, I alternate my view between, you know, is it passion or is it urgency? And honestly, I do think that, you know, I think the work that we're doing is so vital. I think the importance of bringing people in, I think the importance of inclusion and being inclusive. When we went through our kind of name change a couple years ago, you know, we really thought about how do we think about our name reflecting not just what it is we do, but the change we're trying to seek in the world. And so as we were going through that exercise, you know, we really came to this vision that we are looking to create a new type of economy, an economy that is an inclusive economy, an economy that is benefited by and benefits all equally. And so, you know, this conversation, you know, makes me so passionate that because it so aligns with everything that we're trying to do in our organization. And sometimes I get so worked up more, you know, I don't know if it comes from passion or just a sense of urgency. I feel like in the last several months, we've seen the best and the worst. You know, we've seen how terrifying you know, things that are coming upon us, you know, changes in our world, climate change, the political structures in which we're living right now, you know, have been so concerning. And there's a sense of urgency that we need to do something about that. At the same time, there's been this unbelievable power of, you know, young people speaking out and organizing in peaceful and powerful ways. And so I feel like, you know, I'm driven by both of those, the sense of, oh my gosh, we got to do something. And isn't this amazing how many people are stepping forward to want to see change happen in the world? So that all is very inspiring and motivating for me personally.
Thank you so much, Kathy. It's great to see your passion for inclusive. Dr. Burmese?
Yeah, so I'm wearing a lot of hats, I think, here. So I'll talk about why I love doing the research I do. You know, and I guess one of the things that I've recognized is I am often in a room with a lot of people whose mindsets drive whole organizational directions, right? So I'll have an executive group. These are the leaders of a, you know, Fortune 50 company, and they're trying to tackle a problem. If I can get through to that group, it can drastically change the direction that the organization goes, right? So I think of it as an obligation upon me to make sure that I have done the research so that when I say something, I'm backed, I'm supported, you know, empirically, but also I've thought about the ethical, moral, civil kind of repercussions of what I'm saying. And I try to be upfront. I was like, look, you might make less money here, but it's the right thing to do, and here's why, right? Think long-term, don't think short-term, right? These are things that I say and I try to live by. And it really wasn't until I started working with Filene and credit unions that I found a group of organizations that were living this mantra and succeeding. And so now when I teach, I use my students are probably sick and tired of credit unions because I just tell them so many stories about how, like, no, this can be done, and here's how you do it, and here's how you should be thinking about things, and take that ethos into all these companies you're going to. And so for me, that's really been kind of motivating and eye-opening over the last, you know, 3 to 4 years. Is I kind of had this thing in my mind, but I didn't have a great exemplary type of organization, and now I have it, and it's a joy to kind of continue working with.
Thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it. Courtney?
Yeah, so I have a few answers to this question. I'll try to keep it succinct. So back when I was in my credit union days, my former boss, who I still talk to all the time, and a lot of the relationship I think about the work that Sekou talks about, which matters, like the talent leaving. So we can get into that in a whole other day and a whole other topic. He used to ask me, Courtney, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I want to go places, and I want to talk to people that care about credit unions. And I just like want to think of things and have all these ideas and just have this wall in my office that I could just write it all on. At the time I was in a contact center, and he was like, I cannot do that for you. I don't know, like, where you work, that's just not happening. And so for me, Filene and the cooperative trust was really that kind of conduit for me. So while I do have, a job and mission, I don't just sit in my office and like think of ideas and write them on the wall. It allows me to dive into research. It allows me to talk to all kinds of human beings, to hear about what they're experiencing in their life. And not only do I get to hear that, but I get to share that information with organizations and universities that are doing research to help support your credit unions. So member service was ingrained into the back of my eyeballs. I swear when I close my eyes, the word is member service is on either side. And now I look at my work that I am serving credit union members across North America because of the research that we're doing at Filene, because of the way that I'm engaging with young professionals. I am still serving members, and I'm still living this member service mission that has really meant a whole lot to me. So my passion really comes from, one, getting to help you serve your members better. And then two, it's that little selfish bit that I get to go around and talk to all kinds of people and meet new humans and hear about their stories. And that's just something that I've always wanted to do. I think in another life, I probably would have been like an ethnographer or some sort of anthropologist, but I decided not to go down that path.
Thank you so much, Courtney. It's awesome hearing about your true passion for the cooperative trust and Filene. We'll bring it back to Opal, and then we will start with some questions from our audience. Opal?
Yeah, so at CUNA Mutual, one of our statements is we believe a brighter financial future is accessible for all. So you can hear the inclusion in that with words like accessible and all. And quite frankly, as a Black woman from a low income family, first generation college graduate, I know that banking systems were not designed with me in mind. So we've got such power to influence the ways that we change these systems. And money isn't everything by any means, but we know that it can change a lot. When we saw Hannibal, if you saw the panel earlier, and he talked about the correlation between pre-existing health conditions and financial deserts. And we know the correlations between health and wealth. And if this year has taught us anything, it's that health is king, health is key. That is the thing we will protect and need to protect most. And knowing how intertwined that is with people's financial wellness, that's huge. We have a chance to literally change the world. And as you know, Juliet, at CUNA Mutual Group, we often say, working at CUNA Mutual Group has changed our life. And it's not just us. That's not an uncommon story for being an employee at CUNA Mutual Group to have changed your life, the trajectory of your children. It really can change it. So that's what makes me passionate about the purpose of my organization. To me, it doesn't get any better than that. It's holistic, it's everything.
Thank you so much, Opal. And I know John said he could attest to that too. So thank you everyone for the insight in those questions. We do have a couple of questions from the audience, and then we'll perhaps close with a final thought. So I've seen one question come through, and whomever wants to take it, you're welcome to jump in. Can our credit union mortgages reverse redlining?
I'll jump in if to get us started. I would say our credit union mortgages can go a long way to start to counteract some of the historic inequities that redlining has created in our society. So I don't know if we can, reverse it entirely, but I think we can go a long way. I think the more that we do it, the better that we do it. I think the closer we will get to that goal. I think credit unions have a unique ability because we are the last remaining character-based lenders. We know how to lend to people in a way and to engage with membership and an affinity that in a way that helps us take risk or evaluate risk in a different way than the way that the stated banking system will tell you to do it. We can step outside credit boxes. We can, we can step outside of reliance solely on scores and numbers. We can look and understand what's going on in our communities. We can engage with people who are working their way through the credit union, who are working through, financial counseling, home ownership counseling, and a whole range of other supportive services. And we can get mortgages out to a broad cross section of our members and our communities. And if we're all doing it and we're all committed on working together on that, I think we can go a really long way to possibly, maybe not reversing, but certainly addressing a lot of it. And I think that's a great goal.
Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate that. Now we are at our 5-minute warning, and perhaps we can close with just a couple final thoughts based on this question from one of our chat members. What initiatives can we all take within our roles or our orgs to spread the credit union efforts to the rest of the world, particularly marginalized communities in our own backyard?
I suppose I'll start with the simplest is, are we talking to our family and friends about the work that we do at credit unions? And are we, being that megaphone? That is really all I have for that. And just use the power of the voice that we have. I think young professionals are just super excited. And oftentimes I think this goes back to the trust thing that I had mentioned. Family and friends trust you, and they trust the products and services that you're using, and share it and scream it from the rooftops and really make it so that way they don't have a choice because they know it's the best choice. And that would be my advice for that.
Thank you, Courtney. Much appreciated. Anyone else? Final thoughts?
Yeah, I can piggyback off a little bit what Courtney was saying. Absolutely agree there. And as she's saying that, speaking with your friends and family and community, I would say do the same thing at work. Don't be afraid to speak up. Often you will find yourself as the only person under 40 in the room, as the only person of color, as the only person who represents one of these other marginalized groups. And you do have that expertise, and your speaking up can really lead to something. One of the role models in the multicultural and DEI space that I follow is Alicia Butterfield Jones. And she has a quote that I love that says, "I speak the truth even when my voice shakes." And for me, that is something that resonates with me and my personality. And I would say the same thing to young folks. If you feel something strongly and you have an expertise in that area, speak up on it, because you never know what you will change and what you can trigger in your organization.
Thank you, Opal. Love it.
I guess I'll hop in here. I guess what I always try and do is similar to what kind of Opal was saying. I try to speak truth to power. But I try and do my homework first, right? And so I realized in certain areas I was lacking knowledge. And so I took the time to understand what are the areas where I need to be, I need to have strength. And I strengthen myself there. I think so. As you're thinking about I want to be a leader, I want to be a changer within my organization. What are the things that are valued? What are the types of knowledge that are valued within this organization? Let me make sure I'm rock solid there, and I can bring that to the table. And that's going to help maybe steady some of that quivering kind of when you're speaking up, right? It's going to take courage to do it. But at the end of the day, people are going to look at, what are your bona fides? What can you bring to the table? And we have to bring all of ourselves to the table, right? All the knowledge that we kind of have. And so utilizing your skills, your talents, your treasures, to exact that change. And, it's going to fall upon you. So, this next generation is going to be the one to do it. I'm barely there. I'm probably going to just be waving at you guys as on my way out. But I look forward to seeing you guys, all the great things you guys are all going to do.
Thank you, Dr. Ramis. It's been a true honor to have you here today. Anyone else?
I'll just say, I think having this kind of a forum, I think AACC, the whole conference, but also having this opportunity for young leaders to be coming together, to be learning, to be sharing is so important. And I would just also say, raise your hand, get involved, to just like the other speakers were saying. I mean, we need your leadership. We need you on boards. We need you all throughout the credit union. So, jump in there and help be the future of our movement, because we definitely need your passion and power.
Thank you, Kathy. We're at about 15 seconds left, so just wanted to thank all of our panelists, the AACUC. This is not the last session of the day. We've still got YP After Hours Networking, Men's and Women's Chat, as well as a reflection from today's session. So thank you all again in the chat, all of our panelists, everyone here. Truly appreciate it. And thank you for a wonderful session.
Good job.
Bye, everyone.